Along the edge of a vast, shimmering delta in what we now call North America, a struggle for the ages is unfolding. A 3-ton Triceratops bull, his frills scarred from a dozen previous battles, plants his massive, pillar-like legs into the mud. He bellows, a sound that vibrates in the chest of every living thing for miles. Facing him is the undisputed nightmare of the Mesozoic, a Tyrannosaurus rex. This isn't just a hunt, it's a chess match written in muscle and bone. The Rex circles, its 5-ton frame moving with a terrifying bird-like grace. It watches with binocular vision more acute than an eagle, looking for a lapse in the herbivore's guard. The Triceratops pivots, keeping his lethal horns pointed at the predator's soft underbelly. For a moment, time seems to stand still. This is the peak of 160 million years of evolutionary perfection. These titans are the masters of a world that has never known a global catastrophe. They live in an idyll of eternal summer, unaware that in the cold vacuum of space, a rock the size of Mount Everest has just crossed an invisible line. The clock has struck midnight, and the sky, the source of all life and warmth, is about to become the messenger of total annihilation. Understand the tragedy of what was lost, we must first understand the majesty of what existed. Earth 66 million years ago was not a primitive wilderness. It was a sophisticated, high-functioning masterpiece of biology. The atmosphere was richer in oxygen than our own, fueled by sprawling forests of conifers and the newly emerging flowering plants. This was a world of harmony among giants. Imagine vast herds of hadrosaurs, the duck-billed dinosaurs, moving across the floodplains. They weren't mindless beasts. They were social creatures with complex vocalizations, using their hollow crests to trumpet warnings and mating calls across the valleys. They nurtured their young in massive nesting colonies, showing a level of parental care that rivals modern birds. In the skies, the Quetzalcoatlus, a pterosaur the size of a Cessna airplane, soared on thermal currents, its shadow chilling the creatures below. In the oceans, mosasaurs and plesiosaurs ruled the depths, reaching lengths that make the great white shark look like a minnow. This was the illusion of eternity. For 160 million years, a span of time so vast that the human mind can barely comprehend it, dinosaurs had seen continents drift, mountains rise, and climates shift, but their dominance remained absolute. They were the masters of adaptation. To them, the sun was a constant friend, the rain a seasonal blessing. They had no reason to believe that the heavens could hold anything but light. They were living in a golden age that felt like it would last forever, a biological empire that had survived the test of time, only to be undone by a mathematical certainty from the stars. While the Triceratops and the T-Rex locked horns in a dance of survival, the cosmic stranger was closing the distance. This wasn't just a rock. It was a trillion-ton bullet of carbon, silica, and a rare metal called Iridium, hurtling through the vacuum at 72,000 kilometers per hour. To put that in perspective, that is 20 times faster than a rifle bullet. It had been traveling through the darkness for millions of years, nudged by gravity, destined for a fatal mathematics. The trajectory was perfectly horrible. Had it arrived a few minutes earlier or later, it might have splashed into the deep Atlantic or Pacific, perhaps causing massive tsunamis, but sparing the land from the worst of the fallout. Instead, it was aimed with cruel precision at the Yucatan Peninsula. The angle of entry, roughly 45 to 60 degrees, was the worst-case scenario. It was designed to maximize the amount of debris ejected into the atmosphere. But the geographical irony was the final nail in the coffin. The target was a shallow sea rich in gypsum and carbonates. This wasn't just rock hitting rock, it was a kinetic strike hitting a chemical bomb. The impact would vaporize these minerals, injecting billions of tons of sulfur and carbon dioxide into the stratosphere, turning the very air into a toxic shroud. The asteroid didn't just hit the Earth, it ignited it. The moment of impact was an instant apocalypse. As the asteroid pierced the atmosphere, the air in front of it was compressed so violently that it turned into plasma, becoming several times hotter than the surface of the sun. In a flash of light, so bright it would have blinded any creature that saw it from 1,000 miles away, the asteroid and a massive chunk of the Earth's crust simply ceased to exist as solids. They became gas. A thermal radiation wave expanded outward at the speed of light, incinerating every living thing in a 500-kilometer radius within seconds. If you were a dinosaur in what is now Mexico or the southern United States, you didn't die of a wound. You were vaporized before your nerves could even register the pain. The planetary resonance was only beginning. The strike triggered a megaquake, an earthquake of magnitude 11 or higher. The Earth's crust literally rang like a bell. This seismic shock traveled through the planet, triggering volcanic eruptions on the literal opposite side of the globe in the Deccan Traps of India. Then came the wrath of the elements. A wall of water, a tsunami nearly 1.5 kilometers high, roared out from the impact site, scouring the coastlines of the Americas. As the ejected debris fell back to Earth, it friction heated the atmosphere to the temperature of a pizza oven. This rain of fire ignited global wildfires, consuming 70% of the planet's forests. In a single day, the Garden of the Cretaceous was turned into a global charcoal pit. As the fires died down, a new and more lingering horror began. The impact winter. The sky did not clear. Instead, a thick, suffocating veil of soot, dust, and sulfur aerosols wrapped the planet in eternal night. For months, perhaps years, the sun was a forgotten memory. Photosynthesis, the engine of life, ground to a halt. The plants that hadn't burned began to wither and die in the dark. This led to a chemical terror. The sulfur in the air combined with moisture to create concentrated sulfuric acid rain, which poisoned the rivers and turned the surface of the ocean into a graveyard by killing the plankton, the very base of the marine food chain. Then came the thermal shock. Without the sun's warmth, global temperatures plummeted by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. For the large, high-metabolism dinosaurs, this was a death sentence. They could not regulate their body temperatures in the freezing dark, and they could not find the hundreds of pounds of vegetation or meat required to fuel their massive frames. The ecosystem was collapsing from the bottom up. The giants who had ruled for millions of years were now victims of their own success. Their size, once their greatest defense, had become their greatest liability. This was the great filter. In the history of life, there are moments where the gate is narrowed, and only the lucky and the specialized can pass through. The scale of loss was staggering. Nearly 75% to 80% of all species were wiped off the face of the Earth. This wasn't just the end of the dinosaurs. The pterosaurs vanished from the sky, and the mosasaurs vanished from the seas. It was the curse of size. If you weighed more than 25 kilograms, about 55 pounds, your chances of survival were essentially zero. There is a long-standing debate among scientists about whether the dinosaurs were already on their way out due to volcanic activity and climate change. But the consensus today is clear. The asteroid was the headshot to a biosphere that might have been stressed but was still vibrant. It was a sudden, violent punctuation mark at the end of a very long and successful chapter. The world didn't just change, it was reset. The lords of the earth were gone, leaving behind a silent, scorched and freezing world where only the shadows moved. In the ruins of the old world, the heirs of the ashes were stirring. The secret of survival was not strength or majesty, but humility. Small mammals, no larger than rats, who lived in burrows underground, were shielded from the initial heat pulse and the rain of fire. They were generalists, scavengers who could eat insects, roots, or even the decaying flesh of the fallen giants. They had the seed bank. Many plants survived as seeds buried in the cool earth, waiting for the sun to return. These seeds provided a vital food source for the ancestors of modern birds, the only dinosaurs to survive the cataclysm. When the skies finally cleared and the sun touched the earth again, the world was empty. But nature abhors a vacuum. This was the new start. Without the crushing pressure of dinosaur predation, mammals underwent an evolutionary explosion. In the millions of years that followed, these tiny burrowers grew and diversified. They moved back into the oceans to become whales. They climbed into the newly regrown canopies to become primates. The destruction of the old world was the mandatory prerequisite for the creation of ours. We are, quite literally, the children of a cosmic accident. How do we know all this? It is one of the greatest scientific detective stories ever told. For decades, the disappearance of the dinosaurs was a mystery. Then, in 1977, Walter and Louis Alvarez discovered a scent of iridium, a thin layer of reddish clay in the rock strata of Italy that dated exactly to 66 million years ago. Iridium is rare on Earth's surface, but common in asteroids. They proposed a radical theory. A giant rock had killed the dinosaur.
This pivotal moment marked the return to the sea, a journey that would redefine these creatures forever.
For years, the scientific community was skeptical. Where is the hole? They asked. The search for the crater led to the Yucatan, where all geologists had noticed strange gravitational anomalies decades earlier. In the 1990s, the Chicxulub crater was finally identified, buried under a kilometer of sediment. The final proof came in 2016, when a team of international scientists drilled into the crater's peak ring, finding shocked quartz and granite that had been moved like liquid by the sheer force of the impact. The smoking gun had been found. The mystery was solved.
Look here at the iridium layer. It's global.
There is simply no other explanation.
Today, we look back at this event not just as ancient history, but as an echo of catastrophe that defines our present. We must realize that we are children of chance. If that asteroid had been knocked off course by a fraction of a degree a million years earlier, the dinosaurs might still rule the Earth, and humans might never have evolved. It is a humbling lesson of fragility. It reminds us that our status as the masters of the planet is not a divine right, it is a temporary lease. But there is a difference between us and the T-Rex. We have reason as a shield. We are the first species in the 4 billion year history of life that can look at the stars and see a threat coming. With programs like NASA's DART mission, which successfully redirected an asteroid's path, we are proving that we don't have to be victims of the cosmic stranger. We have the power to protect the idyll of our own era. The story of the asteroid teaches us that the greatest strengths of today can become the greatest weaknesses of tomorrow. The dinosaurs were too big, too specialized, and too comfortable in their dominance. In your own life, stay small in spirit, be adaptable, keep learning, and never assume that the sun will always shine on your current path. Resilience isn't about being the strongest, it's about being the most prepared for the change you don't see coming. If you found this journey through time fascinating, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join our community as we explore the mysteries of the past and the possibilities of the future. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and I will see you in the next story.